Tracing family history in the Appalachian Mountains usually hits a hard wall. The local courthouse burned down. Vital records, births, marriages, and deaths were lost to fire, or in many cases, never existed until the early 1900s. This antique surveying transit reminds us that while paper records disappear, the ground itself does not. Historical land boundaries, the physical soil ownership measured out by tools like this, provide a stable documentary alternative when county registers fail. This timeline illustrates the two-halves rule of land research. Every property has two distinct types of records. A state land grant records the moment a piece of land passes from public, government ownership into private hands for the very first time. Everything after that, every subsequent sale, trade, or inheritance between private parties, is recorded as a county deed. Tracing a family timeline requires checking both. Searching only the county deeds while ignoring the original state grant, or vice versa, leaves major gaps in your research. You have to bridge them together to reconstruct the full history of the property. This is a standard county deed. While identifying the buyer and seller, the dense handwritten text acts as a secondary census. Because early vital records are scarce, these documents establish family relationships directly, identifying spouses with @ukes or naming siblings among heirs. Reading the property description, we see the meets and bounds system in action. Instead of a grid, land is identified by compass directions, distances, and natural landmarks, anchoring the family to highly specific geographic features, like white oaks or a creek bend. Down at the bottom, the signature blocks reveal another layer of data. The neighbors who witness these deeds, or the adjacent landowners named in the boundaries, frequently turn out to be cousins, in-laws, or parents. Extracting these peripheral details turns a routine property transfer into a localized map of family connections. Tracking who witnessed whose deeds across a community exposes kinship networks invisible in any other legal document. Looking at this flowchart, the most effective approach is to start with the newest county deed you can find for your ancestor's property. From there, trace the chain of title backward through successive deeds, working chronologically into the past. Eventually, local county records run out. Researchers often turn to the Federal General Land Office databases. When they type in an Appalachian ancestor's name and get 0 results, they conclude no earlier records exist, hitting a dead end. That dead end is an illusion. The original 13 colonies and the states carved from them, like Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Tennessee, are state land states. The federal government didn't distribute this land. State and colonial authorities did. Applying federal research habits to these states leads to failure. To find the earliest acquisitions, you must bypass federal databases entirely and pivot to state-level repositories. If you have traced a local deed back to 1790 and you know federal databases won't help, where exactly do you look to find the original 1780 grant? You look here, in secure state archives and state land offices, often located hundreds of miles away from the property itself. Because these original grants were stored centrally, they routinely survived the local fires that destroyed the county courthouses. This map highlights another variable, shifting borders. Because boundaries moved, you often must look in the archives of a parent state. For example, early Tennessee land grants from 1753 into the 1790s were issued by North Carolina, but are held in Tennessee state archives today. These colonial ships illustrate Virginia's headright system. The government awarded 50 acres of land to anyone who paid to transport a settler across the Atlantic. The immigrants' names were recorded directly on the land patent. Compare that to Georgia, which distributed land through lotteries based on a person's county of residence and family size. Each state distributed land according to its own rules. Navigating these colonial and state requirements provides the specific context needed to document your family's arrival and early settlement. Watching this map grow into a family tree shows what happens when we combine the original state grant with the county chain of title. The two halves of the record system work together to reconstruct a family timeline from a single piece of land. The original state grant forms the root of the tree. It provides the foundational data, telling you when the government first transferred the public land and whether the family gained it through immigrant headrights, military bounty warrants, or direct purchase. The subsequent county deeds build out the branches. They provide the missing spouses, identify the siblings during estate divisions, and map the exact homestead coordinates by tracking sales and transfers over decades. The process follows 4 clear steps. Start with the most recent local deed. Map the adjacent neighbors to find potential family members. Trace the chain of title backward to the earliest local transaction. Finally, bypass the federal databases and find the original grant in the state archives. Courthouses burned, and many paper vital records were lost. But by connecting the county courthouse to the state capitol, the land itself provides the evidence needed to rebuild the family's timeline from the ground up.
Thanks for watching. Please join us again next time for more history from the mountains. Don't forget to like and subscribe,